to Lady Overlander Radio. Tonight we're speaking with Tiffany Richards of the Peaceful Warrior Woman. Stay tuned.
Grab your favorite drink, whether it's a coffee, cocktail, or tea, and get ready. It's Ladies' Night on Lady Overlander Radio. The Lady Overlander Radio podcast is sponsored by Frontrunner Outfitters, Midland Radio, Go Treads, Sport Keg, CB Adventure Supply, Adventure Trail Outfitters, Overland Spices, and the More Expo.
Hey, Arla. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Ooh, was that an echo?
I don't know.
Echo?
Was there an echo? Echo? I don't know.
No, that was weird.
I hear that. Me?
I don't know. Anyway, let's focus.
Not today, Satan. Not today.
It's been a long week already, and it's only Wednesday.
Yeah.
So what's been going on with your life?
Let's see. My big girl job's very busy right now.
Boo.
So I'm trying not to pull out my hair. And all the things, and adulting is busy right now.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Things, and Halloween and trick-or-treating, and
yes,
and I still haven't gotten my parent candy tax yet. I'm gonna have to make we're gonna have to discuss that, because there's Reese cups in there, and I know it.
My kids did not realize that was a thing, and I'm like, oh yes, there is a parent tax.
Oh, there's a parent tax, 100%.
Yeah.
So
not only did they have to tip me out, they also had to tip out the other two parents that were there. So
yeah,
that's the way it goes.
I want my cut.
Yeah, absolutely.
I drove you around.
And they all waited till the very last minute to decide to get costumes. So we're running around like crazy people trying to get costumes. It was ridiculous.
We went. No. Yeah. Here, you're in your Nike stuff. Here's a mask. Okay. Here, paint your face. Okay. Let's go.
Wow. That's so easy.
Well,
yeah.
We're getting toward the end of our trick-or-treating, phase, though. Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Well,
I'm tired of it.
I don't know. I'm kind of sad. I don't know.
I don't know. That's a lot. It's a lot when they spring it on you at the last minute, I think.
Oh, did yours spring it last minute?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
big time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
We're not going to talk about that. We're looking up old crap.
Right. Still the wounds are a little still fresh there. So we're going to talk about something else. What are we doing here tonight?
I guess we're going to interview somebody. I don't know.
Yes, we can do a podcast. Yeah. So
we're going to talk to some lady.
We have the lovely Tiffany Richards of the Peaceful Warrior Woman who has joined us tonight.
Yay.
And we met Tiffany at Overland Expo. I met her at Pacific Northwest. She was at West as well, but I didn't meet her there. Did you meet her there? There were so many people there.
There were so many people at West. That was so overwhelming.
I'm still finding out people that were at West that I didn't know were there. Like, it's crazy.
Not surprising.
But Tiffany does some classes, self-defense classes and things like that, which are awesome. And we're going to give Tiffany a second here to introduce herself and give a little background on herself. If you'd like to do that, Tiffany.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to be talking to the both of you. Just as far as pertaining to overlanding and self-defense. So I have been training martial arts for 26 years and teaching for 13 of those. Wow. And I teach all over the country. And teach a lot of self-defense for the outdoor enthusiast. So people that are looking to solo camp or hike or adventure, or even solo traveling in other countries. I do a lot of self-defense and personal safety type classes for people of that nature. A lot of corporate self-defense as well. But my background, I have been doing overlanding and adventuring and camping my entire life. My dad was the get in the truck kind of guy. and you just got in the truck and then you didn't know where you were going or what you were doing or when you were coming home. And so my entire life has been in the outdoors, and I grew up in northern Arizona and southern Utah, where it's absolutely gorgeous and there's endless dirt roads. And that's what I've spent most of my life on. So this is very natural for me to teach for people who want to camp and hike and adventure and go kayaking and all of that great stuff by themselves.
That's not a bad childhood.
Yeah.
No,
that's pretty awesome.
Not at all.
Spent a lot of time rock hunting.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
my son is a rock hunter. I find rocks everywhere all the time.
Ah, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. I don't know if I thought so much when I was a kid that it was fun, but
now you look back and you're like, no,
that was
that's
a pretty
wasn't
cool
that fun.
childhood. Yeah. We were outside all the time. And Lake Powell, if you guys have heard of Lake Powell, we grew up there. So it was always on the lake, fishing, boating, skiing. Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of time in the outdoors.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's we went to Lake Powell earlier this year, and it was a little more they had a little more water in it than last year when my husband and my son were there, but it's still pretty low.
It is.
Like, it's crazy low.
Is that where you had to use your go tread several times to get people out?
If
Was
by
that like
several
how-
you mean like 20 times, yes.
I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yes. That was ridiculous. I mean, everybody would come out there with these 2-wheel drive little vehicles or these vans and immediately get stuck.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there were these 2 ladies that were camping, and they kept saying, oh, they have some go treads. Why don't you ask them if they can help you? And so people kept coming over to us and asking for help. And finally, I guess they felt bad because after like the 3rd time they came over and they're like, we feel really bad. We're going to help you guys because we keep sending people over to you. I'm like, well, first of all, stop doing that, please. Second of all, yes, you can help us, please. So, because this one van was stuck really bad, but and they helped us get it out, but it was crazy.
Do you remember if you were out at Lone Rock?
Yeah, we were at Lone Rock.
Yeah, Lone Rock is the place where everybody gets stuck. I took a 1978 Winnebago Brave RV out there once, like a moron.
Oh my goodness. Sank to the axles, did you?
Oh yeah. Fun times.
Both times that you said?
I know, fun times. Just once.
Yeah. It was crazy. I mean, it was unbelievable. Tons of vans and little cars, and there were areas you could drive that you would stay on rock like the whole time. But nope, these people always went, oh, I can make it. And then they didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had a really good time there. It was really beautiful. And my mom and my younger daughter flew out. My daughter was staying with my parents for the summer, and they flew out and car camped with us for a few days there and stuff. And so they got to watch everybody get stuck too. And my mom thought she was pretty amused by that. But yeah, good times there. Good times at Lake Powell.
Yep, for sure.
So how did you kind of piece together the self-defense and martial arts with the outdoor scene, overlanding, hiking, all of that kind of stuff? How did that kind of mesh together for you?
Well, I started teaching training in martial arts when I was 19. Okay, so I'm from Page. So Lake Powell, there's nothing there.
Right.
And I moved down to Phoenix, and the very first thing that I did, 19 years old, I got to find a dojo. That was my biggest thing. I used to watch WCW wrestling when I was a kid.
Yes, girl, yes.
Slam my pillows down on the ground and body slam them, and Bruce Lee movies, and found a karate school and just absolutely fell in love. And that was it. It's in my blood. Martial arts is in my blood. I do it every day. And then in my 20s, actually, I ended up in an abusive relationship. I was in a domestic violence situation for about 1.5 years with somebody who, I'm just going to go straight into it. I have been choked. I've been pushed through or pushed down a flight of stairs, punched me, and I fell through a sliding glass door. I mean, the story is out there, it's all over social media, and so I help a lot of survivors of domestic violence. And I started teaching women self-defense, specifically just teen and women self-defense. And then taking a lot of the skills, because I started having a lot of people that were coming to my classes saying that they wanted to take their first camping trip, or a spouse had just passed away and they wanted to, to travel by themselves. And so I had heard about Overland Expo. This year was my 3rd year teaching for Overland. And I looked on the calendar and just thought, if there's something that pertains to, especially when COVID, a lot of people took to the outdoors with COVID because they couldn't really travel. And so we had a lot of solo travelers, but then also things were happening too that were really dangerous. Just here in Scottsdale a few months ago, a gal got murdered on a trail, and it's a very heavily populated trail. It had cameras, and it's just, people have to be aware and watch where they're going and have boundaries. And so I started piecing together this program for people that were solo hiking and traveling, and then reached out to the Overland Expo. And then that's how it kind of just all went from there, because it's such a popular topic with everybody who's out doing all this outdoor stuff now.
Oh, absolutely. And we get asked, don't we, Arla? We get asked all the time. Some of the main questions we get asked are, how can I be safe if I want to go out by myself? Or people say, oh, I would never go out by myself. That's too dangerous. I don't feel like I could defend myself or be safe. So, we get that feedback all the time from women. And I'm just curious, what would you say to a woman who said something like that to you?
Yeah. And I know that we kind of chatted a little bit earlier about intuition, but that really is truly the biggest thing, is we have to trust our gut. And we have grown up to talk ourselves out of and into things. We come across somebody creepy, or we come across a situation that we're just not super comfortable with, and then we start to use logic, and then we start to talk ourselves out of or into it. And there have been several situations where people in my class have said they've stayed at a campsite. In fact, there were 2 women in Moab. Did you hear about this? It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Ladies in Moab that got shot and they had even posted on their social media and talked to their friends and just said, there's some guy creeping at our campsite and we don't feel comfortable, but they didn't want to pack up all their stuff. And then a few days later, they found them both dead at the campsite. Yeah. So intuition, intuition, the root of intuition is inter in Latin, and it means to guard or protect. So when intuition arises, it's because there's a stimulus outside that is causing our body to react in a certain way that is alerting us to danger. And Absolutely. So our intuition is the biggest thing that we need to follow. If a campsite doesn't feel safe, if something doesn't feel right, if you're hiking down a trail and you get the heebie-jeebies, turn around. Nothing is worth it. Absolutely nothing is worth it. But the whole premise of self-defense is to not be a target in the first place.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're very, very aware. What do you think? Give me an example of what do you think that somebody does, like if they're out jogging or if they're out on a trail by themselves, what's one of the things that they do to kind of participate in their own victimization, to distract themselves?
Earbuds.
I just did a video on social media about that. Take the earbuds out.
Yes.
You're removing one of your senses. If you are wearing earbuds, you are taking away one of your senses. And especially if you're out in the wilderness, like in the desert where I am, it's not snake season anymore, but earlier, just a couple months ago, it was snake season. I want to be able to hear that too. So you want to be able to hear animals as well as people. But, when we choose to distract ourselves, the perpetrator is looking for an easy target.
Yes.
So who's the easy target? The person that has their head on a swivel and is looking around and paying attention, or the person who's just so, enwrapped in what they're doing with their earbuds and listening to their podcast? So they're
looking down at their feet and just running. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
100%.
So
they can listen to the podcast, just not when they're running.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That's important.
Yeah.
No, there was a woman who just this last summer, I think she was in Wyoming or Montana, and she was running with earbuds in, and she got mauled by a bear. It was early in the morning. She didn't know the bear was there, and they got her.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous.
I always say too, just to my teens and women that come into my classes, is that if you're distracted, if say that you're posting on social media or you're doing something else, that person who's looking for their next target, they're spending all of their attention on you, and you're spending all of your attention on what you're doing. So you're not focusing on anything that's going on around you. So removing those earbuds, taking away the distractions, that's really important.
Absolutely. I think that it's important if you're in an unfamiliar place and you see somebody that kind of gives you the creeps, I think it's important to make eye contact. Let them know that you see them and you're aware that they're there. I think that's a really important thing to do. Being aware of your surroundings, like you said, trusting your intuition. I think a lot of times when, as younger women, we were probably told, oh, you're just worrying for no reason, or oh, everything's going to be fine. And you're just, you're such a worrier. You're so sensitive. You're so whatever. No, maybe those things are for a purpose. Yeah. And I think that sometimes as women, we're like, oh, maybe I'm being ridiculous. Maybe I'm overreacting, but you can never be too safe. You really can't.
Absolutely. And that's when we try to talk ourselves out of things too.
Yeah.
Is because when our gut feels it, then that means that's our body telling us we need to do something. That's the reaction to the stimulus. So we need to do something. And if that is leaving the campsite or turning around, then that's just what you have to do. And there's all sorts of things to do to be prepared for these types of trips, to go overlanding, to go camping, to go hiking by yourself. So you can still walk through life and enjoy life. You don't want to walk around in fear. But fear is something that the worry and the anxiety and the dread, that's something that we create. The stimulus of that intuition, that response, that's truly what's going on that we have to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't remember the exact phrase, but we were doing one of the ladies overland lounges at one of the expos this past summer, and someone made a comment about fear, but it was more like not allowing fear to kind of run the situation, because it's one thing to be aware, like we're talking about, and to kind of be diligent and make sure you know what you're going, what's going on around you. But living in fear and letting fear control you to where it prohibits you from doing anything is definitely not healthy, And so I think that in a lot of, I'm sure that there are a lot of men that have that happen to them as well. But I think a lot of women who may not be comfortable in the first place with camping by themselves or driving out on a trail by themselves or whatever, just because of lack of experience, they allow that fear to build up to where it basically stops them from doing anything, and that's not good either. So, how do you kind of rationalize that and say, okay, I'm not being too fearful. I'm just being smart. But at the same time, I need to get out there and do something.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is asking yourself, am I worrying? Am I worrying about this? And because there's a difference between your intuition and your body. And then there's a difference between that creation that you're kind of going overboard. In fact, there's a lot of times where because I have all these different self-defense programs, there's a lot of times that I'll get into, oh gosh, studying domestic violence, and here I am, like, I'll get into this kick where I'm just studying away on domestic violence relationships and getting all these statistics. And then I start to go, oh my God, so I have to actually talk myself out of some things as well, get out of my head as well because when we're worrying all the time, or when we're focused all the time on one thing, of course, it's just like everything that we see, everything that we do, everyone's out to get us.
Yeah.
So we got to kind of rein ourselves back and say, what's really going on? Let's do a check-in real quick and see what's going on. Is this me creating something out of nothing? Probably. But the gut feeling is, you just can't deny that at all. And that's why they call it women's intuition. We are absolutely more sensitive to that. There was at Overland Expo in Denver a couple years ago that I was at, one of the women in my classes, she was walking through, I believe her and her husband were down, I want to say they were in Panama, and they were walking to try to find a restaurant, and they were walking through this neighborhood, and she had the gut feeling, and she said, we need to get out of here. And he said, no, we need to just get through this neighborhood and we'll find the restaurant over there. And she's like, no, we really need to get out of here. Come to find out, there were some people that were kind of circling them and ended up beating up both of them. And luckily that's all that happened. They beat them up, but they didn't they didn't assault her, and and then they ended up leaving. And he told her, he said, "I will never doubt you again."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
she's never
definitely
gonna let him
no.
forget that. No, that's crazy. Wow. That's just, when we go out in remote camp, I'm more fearful of other people than I ever am of animals.
Mhm.
And one thing that I have realized though is the further out you get, the less likely you're going to have an issue from my experience, because the other people that may happen to be out there are out there for the same reason you are. They're out there to get away, to not be bothered, to have time to themselves,
Mhm.
They just want to not be, kind of clumped up with a bunch of other people. So I never camp in any kind of forest or any kind of public lands that's anywhere near a major city. I just don't do that, because a lot of the times you have like a homeless population that are setting up camp there,
Mhm.
or other nefarious things like drug deals and things like that going on. So I try to get out as far as possible.
Yeah, they call that situation, they call them fringe areas.
Mm-hmm.
And fringe areas are when there's something happening that's heavily populated, and then out kind of away from that area is the dangerous part. That's the dangerous area. And the
Mm-hmm.
top 3 fringe areas are parking lots, parking garages, and public bathrooms.
Oh, wow. Public bathroom.
Yeah. So those are the top 3 fringe areas as far as a city, being in a group of people. In fact, there was a woman that was up in Seattle running. She was training for a marathon, and she was running, and she ended up in the restroom at the park that she was at, and she was washing her hands, and she said all the hair just stood up on her arms and the back of her neck. And she looked in the mirror, and there was a man standing behind her, and he had followed her into the bathroom. And he tried to assault her, and she had just taken a self-defense class that her company put on. And so she just remembered where is he soft and where can I hit? And then she just used force, and she beat him in the temple, and ended up locking him in this bathroom stall and called the cops and all this. But in that public bathroom where you would think that you'd be safe.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And you have to I would think that you would have to have muscle memory. Like you'd have to, for like in her situation, it's either instinctual, right? She's just doing whatever she can to get the person away from her. But
Mhm.
in that situation, it sounds like the training kind of kicked in, and she just kind of wasn't really thinking. She was just reacting and kind of relying on that training she had. So do you
Right.
think it's important to kind of do that repetitive type training and,
Definitely. There's not a ton of people out there that are diehard martial artists like me that go out and get kicked and punched for fun. There's just a select few of us that like to do that. But if you are going to take a class and it's just going to be a one-time thing, as an example, I would never teach anyone who's just coming in for a one-time class how to punch, because you can damage yourself. But what are our natural reactions? We call them flinch responses. What are our responses if a baseball is coming to our head? We put our hands up. Well, that's a perfect self-defense boundary right there. And then our palm heel strikes are ready to go. And you have to think about, am I going to beat somebody on the chest, or am I going to strike their nose or their ear, their eyes, their throat, their groin? You want to pick out vulnerable areas that would hurt anybody. So if you are against somebody who's much larger than you, then you can at least distract them or disable them to be able to get away.
Yeah.
So like when I teach the self-defense classes at Overland, we don't get to do groundwork and all that fun stuff, but we do get to throw palm heel strikes and elbows and knees, and really do talk about how not to be a victim in the first place. And that's just through your awareness and your boundaries and that gut intuition, confidence, taking up space.
Yeah.
Making eye contact to you, Misty, making eye contact is really important. And I know people get nervous because they think that if they make eye contact, then they're being aggressive. And
Or they're
that's
like
not
inviting.
true.
Yeah.
Right. If you make eye contact, it's like, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that you're communicating is, I see you. Like, and sometimes I've been stuck on an elevator with someone that made me feel extremely uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I started talking to him, and I pointed out his tattoo. And I did that on purpose because I wanted him to know that I know what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he kind of actually, his energy kind of just gave way when when that happened, when I pointed out his tattoo. And then the next stop, I just got off the elevator and I walked up the stairs. I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Or you just make them think that you're even crazier than they are.
Right. There's this, we talk about power posing. So like, what would you think of power poses?
Well, I think shoulders back, your head kind of up a little bit and just, probably putting your feet apart a little bit. That's what I would
like
guess.
if you were getting a little bit bigger, you're going to get bigger. So like this, it would be a power pose, or like you were doing it with your arms crossed or your hands on your hips. We see like photographs all the time of celebrities and politicians that are this. And so power posing, they've done all these studies at Harvard, and they found out that when you stand in a power pose, or Tony Robbins, he does this and then he puts his feet up on his desk every day. So when you get into a power pose and you deep breathe for 2 minutes every single day, you are increasing your testosterone by 20%. You're decreasing your cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone. And you're decreasing that by 22%, and you're 33% more likely to make decisions. So when you say crazy, I always tell people, don't walk around in the grocery store in your tree pose.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
You're a little batty unless you want to do that, and that's okay too. But yeah, assuming those power poses and just taking up that space, shoulders back, head high, making eye contact, that's not a victim.
Right.
That's not someone is going to pick out as their target. They want the person whose shoulders are slumped, who's not paying attention, who seems meek and weak.
Yeah, and I think that that's important to note, because when I was in the military, they taught us the use of force continuum, right? Because I did maritime law enforcement for a little while, and the very first thing the very first level is officer presence. So, whether it's just your uniform or your stance, the way that you're presenting yourself, you're establishing dominance, or establishing, I'm here, I'm taking up this space, and, I'm ready for whatever you've got coming my way, kind of thing. And I think that goes right along with what you're talking about, your shoulders back, your feet are kind of a little bit apart, your head's up, and you're making that eye contact, and you're kind of presenting yourself as, I'm not going to be somebody you can just push around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll move on to the next.
Yeah. Hopefully not. But
right.
Hopefully
there's a great book. I love this book. It's called The Gift of Fear.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. You've read it?
I have not read it yet. It's been recommended to me. It's on my to read list.
He's awesome. Gavin DeBecker is fantastic. He is an expert in what they call pre-incident indicators. And it's all of these things that these people give off, because there's two types of predators. There's the power predator, which is only about 2% of predators. And then there's the persuasion predator, which is about 98%. And those persuasion predators are the ones that you really sometimes don't trust yourself, because they're so good at manipulating.
Right.
And those are the people that will come in and use things like charm and loan sharking to kind of get what they want, or to start a conversation with you to see how compliant you are. And once you find out what these pre-incident indicators are, everyone will always give off, if they are planning to attack or hurt somebody, they're always going to give off one of these indicators. So you really do have kind of this radar that's happening first before anything ever happens. Everything's pretty much premeditated. Even the things Gavin always talks about, even the things that they say, I never saw it coming. And then when he starts to break down in the interview what these people might have been doing, the victim will say, oh, wow, I did. Yeah, that's right. They were doing this. Mm-hmm. So we just have to pay attention. And I talk to the people all the time in the overland classes, is if they say, like, you've picked out a camp spot, and someone comes and they position themselves right next to you.
Yes.
And there's plenty of room. Well, that's a pre-incident indicator right there. They're testing you right now. So there's those types of things that you have to really pay attention to, and then be okay to speak. Be okay to use your verbal skills and to voice that you're uncomfortable, that you don't want them there, or you move.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because what's one of the first things that we would normally say to ourselves? oh, I'm overreacting. It's not that big of a deal that person is so close. I don't want to start anything. I don't want to cause a problem. I mean, inherently, I think a lot of, especially females, I think a lot of us are that way. We're just like, I don't want to really rock the boat or, be a, bitch or, start an issue or whatever. So, but it is important. It's important to have boundaries. It's important that people respect your boundaries. And, you have to establish that with people though, so that they know, hey, that's not okay. And I, when I was very young in the military, when I first went in, it was hard to establish boundaries. And there were people that wanted to take advantage of that, and I kind of learned the hard way that was important, that you have to say, hey, that's not okay. I don't feel comfortable. You need to stop that, or, you need to back off or whatever,
Yeah.
but finding that inner strength to do that, I think is really tough for a lot of women.
Definitely. I was actually at a class just 2 days ago, and the facilitator asked, do you have a harder time establishing boundaries with a stranger or with someone you know? And it took me a minute to think about it, but I don't have a difficult time establishing boundaries with strangers.
Right.
I don't, because I don't know them. I don't care if I hurt their feelings, but I do care if I hurt someone's feelings, or I do care if, I don't want to upset anybody in my personal life.
Right.
And it's like, why do I have such a hard time establishing boundaries with my personal relationships, but not with strangers? And then, go ahead.
I was going to say that goes back to what you were talking about is, a lot of the times, like for example, date rape, that is more common than a stranger, grabbing a hold of somebody and assaulting them. It's normally somebody, like you said. So first of all, it's somebody, and then on top of that, because you know them, you're a little more hesitant to like set a boundary. And that kind of just, comes together and creates this perfect opportunity for them to attack.
Yeah. 70% of attacks are by people that we know.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I was in one. I was in that domestic violence relationship, and I thought I knew him, and we were work colleagues, and I thought, oh, well, of course I know him so well. And it was just, had I been paying attention to all of the little pins, had I known about those before, and I had been paying attention to all of those, the red flags would have been popping up like a circus. But I didn't pay attention to any of that. I didn't know it. And I definitely had gut feelings. I had gut feelings from the beginning, but I talked myself out of it because I knew him from work. But he was so friendly, and he was so nice to everybody, and everyone really liked him, and he was so cordial. So yeah, we have to pay attention.
Absolutely.
And not second guess ourselves.
That's the big part. Not second guessing yourself, That's huge. But we're going to take a quick little break in this conversation. We're going to run a few new little segments that we added to the show. And then we're going to come back, and Tiffany's going to give us a lot of tips that we can do, if we want to go out and explore solo. She's going to give us some tips, ladies, that we can kind of incorporate into our planning and everything else, and maybe some things that we should take with us. So stay tuned for that. And first of all, we're going to go to our question of the week. Arla, would you like to read the question of the week for us? I'm going to pop it up there for you.
I'll say, oh, Lord, I can't do anything by memory. I'm too old for that. All right. What are your methods for staying warm when ground tent camping and freezing in sub-zero temps? This is from Katie Abraham from Team Wild Mavens. She just competed for the second year in the Rebel Rally.
Ooh, they did really well. They were in like the lower 20s, weren't they? 20-something,
22
21.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Another group of badasses.
Yes. Awesome.
Another group of badasses. So ground tent camping, that's something completely different from being a rooftop tent. To me, it's definitely colder. We've done that part. We did it in Colorado, like it froze to death. Things that I can tell you that do not work is a Mr. Buddy heater in a big cabin tent in Colorado.
No.
It does not work well. 100% do not recommend. 10 out of 10 do not recommend, as Misty says. A smaller tent. You don't need a big tent. The smaller, the better. And you can heat your tent up with just a little jet boil.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, you can.
a little hint there. My husband does that in his rooftop tent that he has. He just takes his jet oil up there. I have the diesel heater. I'm kind of bougie like that. But he just takes his jet oil up there and fires it up for a few minutes, enough to take the chill off, turns it off, and gets ready for bed, and he's good to go for the night.
Yeah. So I do something a little, I mean, I don't do the heater stuff. I'm really not bougie at all. So I'll usually put down a wool blanket as my base if I'm doing a ground tent. Then I'll have like a 0 temperature, 0-degree sleeping bag. And I also bundle up with wool socks and like sweats and things like that. I just layer to where I have like 2 or 3 layers on, and then I put on a wool hat, and then I make a cocoon, and then I don't move until morning if I can help it. If I have to pee, I'm screwed though. I have to get out and get off all the layers and do all that, and I hate that.
So what happens there?
Yeah, no, I get very upset.
Yeah, I don't know that so for me, I can't bundle. I just feel like I'm suffocating, and I move around too much in the night. So I'm not one of those ones that goes to sleep and I just don't move again. So for me, that doesn't work. So, but I know that's how Missy's done it the whole time that she's overland. She's always done.
I get in a little cocoon like this.
Hello, I'm right here. And that's for your nose and your mouth to be out like this, and everything else is just covered up.
Everything is covered up.
Yeah.
What about you, Tiffany? Have you camped in really, really cold temps?
Yes, but it was so long ago. I'm honestly trying to remember the last one I did. It wasn't super cold, but we did a backpacking trip on the Trans-Catalina Trail, Catalina Island, about a 24-mile hike, and I was freezing the entire time. So I didn't do any of the things that you're suggesting. And now I have a trailer that I tow behind my truck, and so I actually have a heater in the trailer. So it's really
she's
nice.
Bougie. She's bougie.
It is bougie. Yeah, I've done enough tent camping. I'm good.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm going to start sleeping in my car. I'm actually selling my rooftop tent because of my shoulders and upper back. I just really can't do the lifting part of getting it up anymore. And so I'm selling that, and I'm actually getting a platform and a mattress for the back of my 4Runner. So hopefully I'll be able to keep a little more toasty in there, just kind of by default. But yeah, that's definitely, that's a good question. It's definitely harder, I think, when you're in a ground tent or when you're in a hammock. I froze to death one time in a hammock. Because if you don't have a layer underneath your tushy and you're in that hammock, all that cold air is going right underneath you. So,
and then once you get cold, it is hard for you to warm back up. Completely opposite, when just like for me, if my feet get cold, I am done. I can't get warmed up past that point again. It just takes forever. So my feet, it's out. My feet is not a good thing. So
my feet have to be warm for sure. Yeah. Keep
the tootsies.
All right. So we're going to go ahead because we went a little long on the first part. So we're going to go ahead and announce our Lady Overlander of the week. So drum roll. After much debate and discussion, we've chosen Amy Marlar, AR 4Runner mom, as our Lady Overlander of the week. And why did you choose her, Arla?
Why did I choose Amy Marlar?
Yeah.
Because you just don't find a whole big bunch of people that are as true as her and her husband are. What you see is what you get with them. She will go above and beyond to help anyone. She juggles so many different things throughout the day. She is on social media. She's commenting on everybody's stuff. She shares everybody's stuff to try to help them as well. She is an ambassador for Lady-Owned Toyotas for Arkansas. She leads trail rides. She gets together things for donation, just all kinds of different things. She's just kind of a whole package deal. And I felt like since we were starting this segment, I felt like she was a really strong candidate out of the gate.
Yes, I agree.
So,
And Jared Cook nominated her actually from Shop Overland Apparel.
yep.
And Amy, like you said, she's involved in a lot of different things. She does a lot of promotion for Blue Line Overland.
Blue Line Overland.
And raises money for Shop with a Cop programs. And she helps, raise money for autism awareness and all kinds of different things. She's just a really, really good person. She would give you the shirt off her back. Like you said, she's a very, very much what you see is what you get kind of gal. She's a great ambassador for the Arkansas, division of Lady on Toyotas. I'm an Arkansas member. Just an all around wonderful person. So I'm really glad that she's our very first Lady Overlander of the week. Yay!
And I'm a cheaper, but she lets me be a part of Lady Owned Toyota in Arkansas too.
She does. Yeah, we do. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, y'all do. Yins do. Yins do. That's an Arkansas thing. Yins.
Yuns do. I have to learn
Yins
that.
do. Tiffany, start using yuns over there. And
Yuns.
Right.
I don't know. I can't even say it. I'm from Florida, so.
So am I, but I can say it.
Awesome. So, all right. So we got our new segments out of the way. Yay, Amy. Amy, we're going to send you a special little something. We'll send you a little gift or something. Thank you for being such an amazing person. Okay. Tiffany, let's get back to some tips and tricks for women that want to go out and camp solo. What would you would recommend?
So here's a few things. I always recommend this. You're out by yourself. I tell women to go to the thrift store and get the largest pair of men's boots they can find. And then you throw those outside the car, the tent, the camper, wherever you are, whatever you're using, put those outside. The other thing is if you don't have a dog with you, it doesn't matter. Go get a big dog water bowl.
Okay.
Set a water bowl out and maybe even a leash. So you want to make it look like you have more people at your campsite. You have men at your campsite. You have dogs at your campsite. You want to make it look like you don't want, I'm not going to mess with them. Look at that water bowl out there. And she obviously has her husband or boyfriend with her.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kinds of things. Extra lights, putting lights up around the campsite. So you have some at your tent and you might have some at your car and you might have some over here on a tree, but you're putting multiple lights up. There's a couple of people that I know that put headlamps in various places. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of looks like there's movement. There's people with headlamps on. That's another thing to do. The other thing, obviously, we've already talked about intuition and just making sure you have to understand that if somebody approaches you, communication is really important and using verbal skills is really important, and no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we have to really be aware of as women, is that we don't have to justify our no. And if somebody's trying to talk us out of our no, that means they're trying to negotiate and they disrespected our no. Yep. So right there is a key to making a decision based on their reaction after you've said no.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make yourself, as if you don't want to be approachable, make yourself as unapproachable as possible. And you're already camping with people. Put 2 chairs out instead of 1.
Yeah.
So it just makes it look like you have more people at your campsite than you really do. A lot of women ask me about weapons. And the thing that I like to stress about weapons is that if you don't train with something, don't carry it and then have this false sense of security that you're going to be able to get to it.
100%.
Because when you are attacked, and I have been attacked, when you are attacked, you go into tunnel vision. And you also have fight or flight. That's when our body switches over, right, to that parasympathetic nervous system. And now our cortisol dump and we're getting lactic acid moving through our body. That's to help us run. So that's our caveman. That's just the caveman that's coming out. And what happens is right before that fight or flight, we have a freeze response. And so what martial arts training does, or what self-defense training does, is it breaks the freeze response. So we're more likely to take action and act right away if something were to happen, instead of panicking or just kind of freezing and going, what do? I don't remember. That's where all of the techniques come in, the muscle memory that comes in that we were talking about. So imagine if you have a weapon and you freeze, that weapon could end up being taken away from you and used against you.
100%.
So unless you practice with what you're carrying, I would advise not carrying anything, especially a firearm. That's really, really dangerous. However, there are some things. People ask me a lot about pepper spray. And there are there's pepper spray that you can carry, but there's also practice canisters.
Yes,
so you can get
that's
these practice canisters.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can practice deploying it, because with pepper spray, these canisters empty in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really only have like a 6x9 area to be shooting at. So you've got to be pretty precise. And imagine if that adrenaline's pumping and you've got tunnel vision and now you're trying to deploy this pepper spray. So if you choose to carry this, then you want to make sure that you've got it dialed in to where you can get to it right away. You want to make it accessible. So let's just use the tent example. It's in your tent, it's in a pocket, it's in somewhere that you can easily get to. But my personal favorite, what I like carrying is bear spray.
Yes.
Okay. But bear spray also has a practice canister.
Yes, it does.
So that means that you can go get the practice canister and then you can go outside and shoot that. Bear spray will shoot about 30 feet and it shoots like a shotgun versus pepper spray that just shoots in a stream. So you don't have to be as precise with bear spray. A video just came out of a guy wielding a bat at a convenience store clerk, and he walked out with bear spray and sprayed him, and then he called him a cupcake. It was kind of funny. Not so tough now, are you, cupcake? That's what he said to the guy, which I thought was hysterical, because he comes in with this bat like he's going to just take over the store.
Yeah.
The guy just sprays the crap out of him with bear spray. So good for him.
Bear spray is another thing, just like a firearm or a knife. You need to know how to use it. And you need to try to make sure you're not going to be in the wrong side of that, where the wind shifts and gets you instead of the other person.
Right.
We did training, when I was active duty, we did training, and where we were pepper sprayed and we had to retain our weapon for 30 seconds and hold the person off. And that is hard to do. Woo. I'm telling you, like, you can't see everything is just snot and just, torture. And you're trying to still like have some kind of awareness to keep yourself safe. It's not easy. So, if you're going to use things like pepper spray or bear spray, which I definitely recommend, make sure that you get those inert ones where you can practice and you know how to use it. Make sure you know how to pull off the tab and get it going, and all of that stuff.
Right. And also with that, you want the wind is a variable. So I've done a video on pepper spray where we were out in a park because I wanted to do it outside, and there was just this little gust of wind and the stream went straight over my attacker's head. So I've also had a woman who's come to my self-defense class who peppered sprayed somebody in her car. And then she ended up getting it all over her car, all over herself. It was a total disaster.
Yeah.
So it backfired on her completely. Yeah. So, you definitely want to practice and you want to take into consideration. That's why I always say, it's great to have something on you and it could save your life. But we walk through the world totally equipped with our own weapons to be able to protect ourselves. When we go out of the country and these things aren't legal and we can't be taking those types of things over to other countries, we have to think about, what do we have on us that we could use as a weapon?
Right.
And that's our nails, our teeth, our head, our feet, our elbows, anything possible. We have to imagine getting brutal if something were to happen, because they're kind of messing up our day. And I get indignant, I tell people all the time, get indignant. How dare they? How dare they think that they could lay hands on you? Another thing is a tactical flashlight. So I always have tactical flashlights. I've got them in my truck. I've got them in my camper. I have them in my tent, my truck tent. I've got them in my bedroom, everywhere. But the nice thing with the tactical flashlights is they've got kind of a ridge on them too. So if you have to use them to strike, you can. But then also I like the strobe effect.
The strobe light, yeah.
The light in their eyes, then it kind of blinds them. Remember, self-defense is about creating that distraction to get away. It's not standing toe to toe with someone and taking them on. So really what we just need to make sure we're doing is creating enough space to get away and get help. Yeah. Another tip is, if you have your headlamp and you're searching for it at nighttime in your tent, I recommend sleeping with it around your wrist. Just put it around your wrist, and then that way you just know where it is. So if you hear something, all you have to do is just click it on and kind of put your hand up, and you can kind of see what's out there as well.
Yeah, so, that's good.
Yeah. Do either one of you have the Garmin, the InReach or Spot or anything like that? Satellite?
I have Garmin inReach, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend that too. And definitely making sure that you have some of those SOS messages already fixed into your system, so you can just send those out.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's really important to be able to make sure that people can get a hold of you and for you to get a hold of people. I mean, also take a self-defense class. I mean,
100%.
yeah, go somewhere wherever you are in your city and state. And if anyone needs recommendations, they can reach out to me as well. There are certain self-defense classes that in my self-defense classes, when we teach, I've got one coming up here in Phoenix on December 2nd, but we don't work with any of the suits. There's a lot of self-defense classes that have the big red man suits. They come out all padded and everything. But my guys that help me out, we and myself, we don't have any gear. They'll wear cups, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I want the participants in my classes to feel what it actually feels like to hit bone and flesh.
Yeah.
And distancing as well. Because if you have one of those big pads on, you're hitting 6 inches away and you just don't know what it feels like. And it is a completely different feeling to palm heel strike a chin. And we all take it and it's okay. This is what we do. We walk out of there with black eyes and bruised toes from getting stomped on and bloody lips. But nothing that I teach has not been pressure tested. I pressure test everything.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that people are not walking away with this false sense of, well, I just took a self-defense class and I'm going to be able to get out of a choke if somebody does this. And in every overland self-defense class I teach, one of my guys will put me in a choke and I will say, all right, you guys tell me how to get out of this. And there's always one in the room that will do this, because they've seen it somewhere and that's in their head what they would do if someone were to choke them. And so I'll always have my guy put it on really, really hard. And I will wedge my hands together and I will try so hard to get out of that choke. And I can't get out of it. I've never been able to get out of a choke that way ever.
Yeah.
So I pressure test everything. So then that way, when I give the information, it's accurate. And it's also simple. It's nothing that anybody has to memorize, because you're not going to be able to memorize steps 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't. It's just not going to happen when you're in the moment. You have to go with your natural instincts, and those reactions are going to be hands are up. And now I'm just going to go for the vulnerable areas and strike those.
Yeah.
But, the biggest takeaway is just not being a victim in the first place. It's taking up space in this world. Know that you deserve to be here, that you deserve to walk through life, that you deserve to go out on an adventure. And if that's by yourself, that's okay. I do a lot of stuff solo. I'm not married. My friends can't go out all the time. I do a ton of stuff by myself. And so I just want to be able to allow people to have that same power, to feel that they're allowed to do that because they want to.
Absolutely. So would you say that your best weapon is self-awareness or situational awareness, or more, having this training?
I think it's a combo. I think your best weapon is your intuition.
Yeah.
I really do. Because your body is not going to lie to you. I think that awareness is absolutely key. I think that there are so many things that we can do on a daily basis to stay safe. And I think that we just have to implement those things. And those would be awareness and just making sure you're paying attention. And then I do believe that training, I know that people that come to my classes might only come to one class. I have a few self-defense groupies that follow me around to all the overland expos and take the class over and over. I've been doing it for 3 years. I saw a girl, I think she was 10, and then this year she was 13. I'm like, you're a teenager now. And she took the class again.
Great.
That's good.
They look for my classes on the schedule, and always getting a refresher is fantastic. But practicing and repetition, obviously, but I'm aware that I might not see people again after they do one class, and that's okay, as long as they took away a nugget, which is don't be a victim in the first place. And here are the things that you can do to not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some very important things that you mentioned tonight was, there always are little signs when something may be about to happen. So trust your intuition, not to be so hyper vigilant and whatever that you're living in fear, but just be aware. And if something feels off, your little spidey senses go off, definitely trust that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I call it the freak meter. I tell them when their freak meter goes off, then you just need to, and how many times I've done it plenty. I've done it. I'm a work in progress too. Where I've done it plenty of times recently where I've talked myself out of something or into something because I didn't trust my gut.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the more that we are in tune with our intuition, the faster we can make decisions and respond correctly. And then we can unpack it later. But if our gut says no, then we need to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like you to take a minute to let everybody know how they can find you on social media. You can mention some upcoming classes and their locations so that if somebody's in that area that happens to be watching, they can kind of try to catch your class.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on Instagram, Peaceful Warrior Woman. I have a website, peacefulwarriorwoman.com. And then there's a bunch of videos on our YouTube channel. So actually, if you just go to peacefulwarriorwoman.com, you can find all of our social there and our YouTube channel. So I post a lot of videos, tips, and also we did the pepper spray one, how to defend yourself with a cell phone. That was one video. So there's a lot of those on there as well. And then, like I said, Phoenix, December 2nd, I just got back from Oregon, taught over there. I'll be doing a lot of corporate stuff. I teach for Amazon and Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and a lot of corporate self-defense classes as well. You have to think about Amazon, like those drivers are going out at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. They're going to strange houses. Some of them are taking the bus to work. So we do a lot of corporate self-defense as well.
And Christmas is coming and people are crazy around Christmas anyway.
Yes. And I'll be doing a video on holiday safety as well. So just check out Instagram and YouTube. That's kind of where I post everything.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the show. It was so neat to meet you at the expo. And my 12-year-old daughter actually sat in on one of your classes there and she thought it was really cool. So I like that. I like that, even teenagers and preteens are getting in there and kind of listening to what you have to say. And, I think it's important to start young and, give our girls that confidence that they can, learn how to protect themselves as they grow older and, not be a victim. So I think even, young kids, middle teens or whatever need to take some kind of self-defense class. I think it's important.
Yeah, definitely. I teach 13 and up or my teen and women self-defense, and then 7 to 12, I do a girls empowerment class as well. And I work with the Girl Scouts, and just getting them in there and having the girls do their power poses is pretty cool. Because when they first start out, they're all shy and they stand up and I'm Ashley. And then by the end, Ashley's like Superwoman. And it's so great. Yeah, so great to see that confidence in such a short period of time. I think also real quick, you talked to Lori Perfect from Adventures. And her and I are doing a trip April 6th through the 9th next year.
Yes.
And it's going to be some self-defense and empowerment. And it's solo. It's all ladies. And we're going to Baja. So if anyone's interested in that, her website is perfectadventures.com. And you can check out the
love Lori.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Definitely, ladies, you guys need to check that out if you're able to go. I think, is there a fee? Is there a fee for that?
Yeah, there's a fee for that. I think it's actually, I think she's still working on everything. She's kind of doing the Baja portion, and then I'm doing the hiking and self-defense and personal safety portion. So it's all on her website.
Finalized. Okay.
I don't think it is unless she posted on her site, but keep checking back or shoot us a message and I'll just make sure that I get back to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We've really, really appreciated you being on. Great conversation, all very important things to remember. And ladies, get out there, take self-defense courses, take wilderness safety courses, take driver safety courses, learn your rig, learn your gear, learn your safety equipment. It's important to arm yourself with knowledge more than anything. Yep. So I really hope that people take heed with that and you guys go out and have a wonderful and safe time. Definitely check out Tiffany at the Future Overland Expos and at some of her other events. Check out her website, and you guys have a great evening. And Arla, you need to take her class.
I'm already a badass. Just kidding. Yes, I do.
Flagstaff, Overland Flagstaff.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll see you in May.
Yes. Expo okay. West. You need self-defense there. That's so crazy there. So busy.
I know. It's a little
for real.
I'm telling you. Well, thank you all so much and have a wonderful evening, and we'll catch you next week. Have a great night.